I grew up in Red Deer, and I didn't really get to travel very much, but I do have very many fond memories of Lethbridge. No lie. So, hard to know where to start, but this is just a sampling of some of the news items that were around this week in my news feeds. This is an article about whether electric vehicles are safer than gas vehicles. And I can assure you that's a gas vehicle burning like that. The Chinese are going really big on electric cars. Oh, can you see that on there? No. Sorry. I hope not too many of my slides turn out that way. And I'm not, this could be fake news. A friend of mine sent that to me. I thought that was pretty funny. A little bit about what I'm not going to talk about. Although I think probably everyone here, or anyone who's interested in electric cars, appreciates their environmental lack of impact, if I could say, or the benefit of owning an electric car. So other than just mentioning that, I'm not here to preach about global warming or anything. And the other thing I wanted to say was that I will not be delving too heavily into the technical side of things, which I would more or less tend to do otherwise, since I'm an electrical engineer and I like to build electric cars. But I think you don't need to know the inner workings of an electric car to own one. That basically you just need to know what electric cars can do and what they can't do and what you should do and what you shouldn't do with an electric car, and then you can happily own and drive one. So if there are any people who have like detailed technical questions, well, we are going to have that half hour afterwards, after the lunch, or just approach me privately. There's a few things that I won't be able to avoid, but if you get really overwhelmed, Mark told me that the audience is largely going to be, as I see it here, which is open-minded, retired people, I guess. And because I'm a teacher, I try to include a lot of slides. So if you do get overwhelmed, just turn your hearing aid off and you can just watch the pictures. Oh, geez, I'm way behind on my slides. Okay, there we are. That's a Tesla battery pack, in case you don't know what that is. That sits on the floor of a Tesla, underneath the floor of a Tesla, and that's all armored and insulated, and there's heating and cooling inside of there and all the electronics and everything. But that's it. That's the most technical part of the whole talk right there. There's a picture of the right and left brain, because I want to give you lots of pictures so you can remember stuff in a different way. Oh, I hope I don't fall behind on the slides. So to start with, I thought I would just give you the first page of the FAQ page on my website, where you have questions about electric cars. And the first thing is just so that people get used to the term EV and hybrid and ICE, or also called an ICE vehicle. So these are just some definitions. An electric vehicle is something which is driven by an electric motor using electricity supplied by onboard batteries. So an electric vehicle could be a quad or a bicycle or a motorcycle or anything. So mostly we talk about electric cars, but EV is sort of the thing that groups them all together. A hybrid vehicle is an EV. It is driven by electric motor and batteries, but a hybrid also has a gasoline motor, and the gasoline motor can take over and drive the wheels, or the electric motor and the gas motor can drive the wheels at the same time. The point of a hybrid is you need a smaller battery, and you recharge the battery by braking. It's called regenerative braking, another technical thing, but it's basically reduces the wear and tear on your brakes, and you charge your motor when you're stepping on the brakes instead of wearing them out. And the newer hybrids are called plug-in hybrids, so those are PHEVs. And a plug-in hybrid has a bigger battery that you can drive your car on for maybe up to 150 kilometers, what I've written here, but that's a little ambitious for most plug-in hybrids. I'll talk more about hybrids later. And then a BEV, I don't have that on here, but a BEV is a battery electric vehicle. If I use that term later on, you'll just need to know what it means. And then an ICE is an internal combustion engine vehicle, and typically referred to as an ICE vehicle. And we all know what those are, so I don't have to say any more about that. So I own a store, a business, as you guys heard, and we're trying to do everything to do with electric vehicles and really carry the torch and get out there for electric vehicles. And I find when people come to me, they basically all have a sort of the same needs. They have a set of questions, and those questions are sort of like this. This is kind of, I think, the checklist. People need to know, is an electric car practical? And the answer is pretty much, depending on what you can afford, right? I'll talk more about these questions later. What is charging an electric vehicle like? People have just don't understand, so that's something that we have to communicate easily or clearly. Again, it's very simple. How much do I have to pay? Okay, that does depend on what kind of range needs, requirements you have. Do I need to buy a new one or a used one? And again, there are reasons why you'd want to buy one or the other, et cetera, et cetera. How do I decide which vehicle do I own? Or should I wait until another vehicle comes along that's maybe going to be even better? And, probably a lot of those questions are quite meaningful to you, I would imagine, right? If you're curious about an electric vehicle, those are the kind of things you probably want to know the answer to. Or maybe you came here because you want to invest in Tesla. Or maybe you want to thinking about lithium mines. Or companies, oh, that's Tesla, sorry, that's back. There's Tesla. That's a company that builds chargers, and you can see they're a latecomer, but they're starting to grow. And this is a lithium mining company. And Ford Motor Company. So electric vehicles, there really are very few obstacles to their actual coming forward, practical, or there are some practical obstacles, but technically electric vehicles are here, and they're going to continue to be here for a long time. Right now, I consider EV owners to fall into one of two categories. I would like there to be more middle ground, but right now, typically EV owners are either the committed, meaning they're like, oh, I got to get an electric car because I'm going to save the planet and it's the right thing to do. Or they're the reckless. They're the ones who are like, oh, I want to get an electric car and I'm going to get one right now and I'll figure out how it works later. That was me. I decided to build one though instead of buy one. Oh, flipped the page too soon. But seriously, the main obstacle for these people in this room, or most people, the people that I deal with, who come to me and are curious about electric cars, is that they don't know enough about them. And I actually, oh, there we are. I've got to keep up with these slides. And that's what I mean. And so oh, darn. Well, there's a line on the bottom of the graph. This graph, I came up with this more or less myself, and I think it illustrates the problem that people have taking that leap to buying an electric car. There's an interest there, but on the disruptiveness scale, electric vehicles are quite disruptive in the sense that, like, people can't really get their head around what they actually are. And for the automotive industry, electric cars are going to be extremely disruptive, and I'll speak more about that later. But way over on the left somewhere there is this disruptiveness. And can you see that one? Oh, good. Okay. So there you see EVs on the far right, and if following along to the left, something that is not disruptive, like buying a pair of shoes. People basically know lots about it, and they don't have any problem buying a pair of shoes, even if they look a little different than the other pair of shoes. But as you move further to the right, you can see that the range of what we know about things as they get more and more disruptive, that kind of cloud there, it's heading down towards not knowing a lot anymore. And then that dotted line there, I haven't come up with a name for that dotted line, but that dotted line is the point where people start to feel uncomfortable because they don't even know what they don't know about it. Like, it's okay when you buy a pair of shoes and you're like, okay, so are these waterproof, or is this new stuff on this any good, and da-da-da-da-da, right? You know, you can get past that. But you look at an electric car and people are like, they don't know what to ask. How does it work? You know, people are just like you guys now, just really quiet. So I feel that in terms of what's holding back adoption of electric vehicles, to the general public, I feel what's needed is education. I'm not a big fan of incentives. Like, I believe in Ontario, there was like $14,000 incentive to buy an electric car, which just got cut. Someone nodded there, I think. 10,000 maybe, 14? In Quebec, I think it's 10,000. And there are these big incentives, and yeah, people might buy an electric car because they do a little research and they get one, and it's like $10,000 cheaper or whatever. But I would prefer that money was spent on education, teaching people about the benefits of an electric car, and I mean globally and also personally, because, you know, they're a smart thing to do financially as well. A friend of mine coined this phrase. He said, rather than bribe people to buy an electric car, it'd be better to educate them and they'll buy one willingly. So the question is then, you know, where do electric cars stand now in the realm of what's available, and how much does it cost, and what's coming up in the future for electric cars? And I'm talking about you as a consumer. I'll talk about manufacturing and stuff later. But here you can see that I feel like just about everything to do with electric cars is so new that people are really hesitating to get one. Oh, I got to go back. Not that slide. This morning when I got up, my computer was frozen, and I had not saved all my data from the night before. So I virtually have no more slides, although I had quite a few of them. And so I'm just going to have to go from my notes, and I can't even song and dance too much because I have to stand right next to this microphone. But what I wanted to talk about next was, so what's available now in terms of electric vehicles? What's available in the short term? What's available in the medium term? What's available in the long term? And, you know, how would that affect individuals' decision to buy an electric car or not? So currently, you can buy a Tesla. Tesla's been available for a while. And I have absolutely nothing bad to say about a Tesla. I just can't afford one. Does anyone here own a Tesla? One? Anybody else here own any other electric cars? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Good. And how many people here would like their next car to be an electric car? Yeah, quite a few, eh? That's good. I would like to invite the owners of electric cars later, when we have the question period, maybe to come up here to answer questions as well, if that's possible. Just so you know in advance, and there's only one microphone, so I don't know how that'll work. But so right now you can buy a Tesla, and there are another number of other electric vehicles that are out there that you can buy brand new. The Nissan Leaf has been around since 2011, and the brand new Nissan Leaf, I might have a range of about 400 kilometers. Most of the brand new EVs now, they pack those batteries in on the floor there, and they have a range of about 400 kilometers. There's one all-wheel drive electric vehicle now out, which is other than the Tesla, which is the Mitsubishi Kona. And a lot of people come to me and they're shopping for an electric vehicle, and they're like, well, yeah, I could buy a Kona, or, I went and test drove the Tesla, and I put that on a deposit 3 years ago, and I'm trying to decide whether I'm actually going to go through with it or not. And it depends largely on what your driving needs are, is what I say to them. If you only have one car in your family, then you may need that 400-kilometer range. Some people that I've spoken to said, oh, no, I'll just rent a car for the 2 weeks. You were one. And that'll be fine. And the rest of the time, I always drive around the city. The hybrids are awesome. There's some really good hybrids out there. Somebody I know just bought one, and I drove here in one today. And so a hybrid allows you to drive around in the city all day long with between, say, on the low end 30 and on the high end up over 100 kilometers of electric range. And then the gas motor kicks in and you can drive another 300 kilometers or something like that. So that's a plug-in hybrid. Hybrids are quite expensive, though. So a lot of the people that come to me, they say, well, look, I've already got 2 cars, gas cars, and we're thinking of selling one and using that as our commuter car and keeping our gas car for those long trips, or the truck for pulling the trailer. I see some people nodding their heads. And and so they don't need to spend $50,000 on an electric car. And that's where my business comes in. And actually, I was thinking about this on the way here today, and I belong to, I can throw this slide in here, the Electric Vehicle Association of Alberta, and this is, I think, this is their Facebook page, and this is a wonderful resource, right? Like, I can't say enough about news articles that come on there regularly, and discussions, and people post stuff on there that's like, no, electric cars are so bad because of this reason, and then everyone kind of grinds it down and dissects it, and so you find the right information and the wrong information on there, if you know what I'm saying. You find stuff on there that people post that's misinformation. That's what I want to say. So I highly recommend the Eevee. And what I was going to say, though, about that right now is that most of the people that I met on Eevee, if they do not own a Tesla, then they have bought a used electric vehicle. And buying a used electric car typically means you're getting something coming out of California, where there's a big incentive on there which drives down the price. And you can buy a used electric car which will be a commuter car only. 2-3 years ago, the ranges on these vehicles wasn't anywhere near 400 kilometers. But that's the other choice you have, which is a really practical one, is 95% of your driving, just get a used one. Oh, jeez. Did that come up on the screen? Oh, I just got some message here. Oh, it's gone. I think I touched something. So what's the, should you buy an electric car now? Or should you wait, right? And honestly, I don't think things are going to change that much in the electric car world for about 5 years. The technology of the motor and the controller and all the gadgets and gadgets and everything like that, that's pretty well established, and nothing significant is going to change. They're maybe going to be able to cram in a few more batteries in these cars, but the battery technology is the thing that's making electric vehicles what they are now, which is a going concern. And the next big step in electric vehicles is going to be when solid-state batteries are brought online. And there are billions of dollars being spent by a couple of groups, consortiums, funded by the OEMs, the big auto manufacturers. And they are working hard on making solid-state batteries. And a solid-state battery is kind of like an LED is to a normal light bulb. A normal light bulb, you turn it on, you turn it on, you turn it on, turn it off. Eventually, it kind of wears out and dies. Solid-state batteries, on the other hand, they're going to be able to take a charge really fast. They're going to be able to hold more charge, and they're going to be able to take that charge more often. So in 5 years or so, and it could be more, it could be a little bit less, but they barely exist now in the laboratory. But as I stand here, there's billions and billions and billions of dollars being spent on this. So this is going to be the future for electric vehicles, is going to be solid-state batteries. And at that point, it's going to be great. Until then, I think the existing lithium batteries that are being used, they are going to be able to reduce the amount of cobalt in these batteries, and they are going to be able to make them a little smaller, and they need to work a little bit more on heating and cooling the batteries, and so there will be some tweaks on the batteries. But EVs have been around now since 2011, are still around, and I had a guy come in the shop the other day, he says, yeah, I got a 2011 Nissan Leaf. Isn't there any maintenance I can do on this? Like, I've looked in the manual, there's nothing to do. How's it working for you? It's working great. I said, okay, well, we can test your brake fluid and see if you need to replace your brake fluid, but they seem to age very gracefully and slowly. Oh, and there's only 5 minutes left. And so there's nothing wrong with buying an electric vehicle now. And they will, even when there's like 60 kilometers range left on that, for a lot of people, that's still their daily drive. And I think in small towns, et cetera, instead of buying a beater for driving around, you might as well buy an electric car and don't pay any maintenance. So I think they'll be good, and they will continue to be good. And then they will get better, but it's going to be a while. You should know that. So I talked a bit about incentives in terms of what the future holds. And I don't see incentives in Alberta anytime soon. And like I said, I'm not against that. I would like to see education, and I would like to see infrastructure, charging, so that people feel more comfortable owning them and on the highways, making longer trips. But the snag, I think, on the future of electric vehicles is going to be the auto manufacturers. Currently, every electric vehicle sold, except for the Tesla, loses money. The manufacturers know they have to make them, and they're spending the money on the research, but to actually produce them and sell them, until the market is such that they can make large numbers of them, they lose money on every one. And the other, so they're slowing their offerings of electric vehicles. And as many people that I've spoken to say, they're like, well, it's really hard to buy one in Alberta. You want to buy a brand new one, you got to hunt around. And so that's a bit of a problem. And I don't know what to do about it. And then the other thing is that dealerships either don't know a lot about them, are actively discourage their purchase, which is very, very common. I went into a Volkswagen dealership about 2 months ago and asked about an e-Golf, and he said, we don't have them and we don't recommend you buy one. I said, okay. And I hear this all the time from people who've gone to dealers. And one guy said, oh my God, they're dangerous. This is the head of the service department. I said, we don't want to service them because they're 400 volts. And I'm like, yeah, there's a big red knob. You turn the red knob, and then you work on the brakes. Like, are you afraid of your stove? So the dealers are a problem, and I think deep down, there's, if they don't know it already, they should be worried because of the servicing aspect, because most dealerships make more than half of their income from servicing electric vehicles. A lot of that is warranty work, and they get paid by the manufacturers for the warranty work. But that is going to reduce considerably with electric vehicles. And so I don't really know what's going to happen to the dealership model. The OEMs are going to hold back on electric vehicles until they can ramp up their production. And I believe they're also holding back until they can, integrate solid-state batteries. And, but of course, they all want to say they're doing it, and they want to be seen as supporting the environment, et cetera, but it's a kind of a catch-22. If they build a lot of them, they'll go out of business. So they really have not a lot of choice. It's going to take some time for electric vehicles to really grow. I'm just about out of time, so I'm just going to flip through here. I didn't talk about charging at all. I'm sorry that I've driven my electric car now for a year and a half, and other than a few road trips like I did today, I've never plugged it in anywhere else but at home. And that's what you need to remember. If you want to buy an electric car, you're just going to be charging the darn thing at home, and don't worry about all those other charging stations. I think it's a waste of time to put them in town. I was going to talk about Eevee ownership, and I just didn't get to it, but that's really what's important, I think, in terms of getting over the fear of owning an electric car, is what's it like to actually own one, like what I just described. I've owned this electric car, in the winter the range goes down, but I still don't worry about it. I just plug it in at night, and I can talk about my own driving habits and stuff, but I think the last thing I was going to say is saying that I used to sometimes talk about with my students, and that is that life is the hardest teacher because the test comes first and the lesson afterwards. And I think with what I've given you today now, it's up to you to decide what you're going to do with it, and I wish you all the best. Thank you.